Jake woke early, feeling calm and certain about his decision. Today marked a new beginning, and he felt peaceful as he stepped outside into the soft morning sunlight. Zara was waiting for him, her smile radiant with happiness. Together, they walked, hand in hand through the village, sharing smiles and greetings with the villagers who were starting their daily tasks. Everyone noticed the joy and closeness between Jake and Zara. Understanding something important had changed, Zara led Jake to the elders, who waited patiently near the central fire. Jake bowed respectfully, greeting them warmly. Elder Arlen stepped forward, smiling gently, as Jake began speaking slowly and clearly, explaining his decision to remain with the village. The elders listened quietly, their expressions filled with happiness and approval. Arlen spoke softly, thanking Jake for choosing their village as his home. He welcomed Jake warmly, officially making him part of their community. Zara stood close, her eyes shining brightly. Afterward, Zara guided Jake around the village to share their good news with everyone. Villagers responded joyfully, happy Jake had chosen to stay. They hugged him warmly, grateful for his bravery and friendship. Jake felt deeply touched by their kindness and acceptance. Later in the day, Zara took Jake to a quiet place beside a gentle river. The peaceful water sparkled in the sunlight, making the moment feel special. Zara spoke softly, explaining their traditions for couples choosing to build a life together. Jake listened carefully, understanding the importance of this moment. He promised Zara he would respect and cherish their traditions, grateful to become part of her culture. Zara smiled warmly, deeply moved by Jake's sincerity and respect. They spent the day preparing for a special ceremony to celebrate their decision. Zara taught Jake more about their customs, carefully explaining each tradition. Jake felt excited, eager to participate fully and honor their ways. As evening approached, villagers gathered around a large fire, waiting patiently for the ceremony to begin. Jake and Zara stood together, holding hands tightly. Elder Arlen stepped forward, speaking gently about unity, bravery, and love. Jake listened quietly, deeply moved by the elder's words. During the ceremony, villagers shared stories about Jake's bravery and kindness. They praised Zara's wisdom and strength, expressing happiness about their union. Jake felt humble and grateful, deeply touched by their sincere words. Finally, it was Jake's turn to speak. He stepped forward, looking around at the kind faces of the villagers. He spoke slowly and clearly, thanking everyone for welcoming him. He expressed deep gratitude for their friendship, support, and love. Jake turned to Zara, speaking directly to her. He promised always to cherish, respect, and protect her. Zara listened carefully, her eyes filled with tears of happiness. She responded softly, promising to support and care for Jake always. The villagers cheered joyfully, celebrating the heartfelt exchange. Music filled the air as everyone began to dance and enjoy a feast together. Jake and Zara danced closely, feeling deeply connected and happy. As the celebration continued, Jake noticed how deeply integrated he had become in the village. Each friendly face, each joyful laugh reminded him of his good fortune. Zara smiled softly, understanding Jake's feelings without words. Later, when the celebration ended, Jake and Zara walked quietly together beneath the moonlit sky. Zara gently rested her head on Jake's shoulder, feeling peaceful and loved. Jake held her close, feeling contentment and certainty about his choice. They sat by the river again, watching the moon's gentle reflection on the water. Zara spoke softly, sharing her dreams and hopes for their future. Jake listened carefully, promising always to support and help her achieve those dreams. Together, they spoke openly about building their life, helping the village, and facing future challenges together. Jake felt confident and ready, knowing Zara would always be by his side. When they finally returned to the village, it was late, and most villagers had already gone to bed. Jake walked Zara to her hut, gently squeezing her hand before saying goodnight. Jake lay awake, looking at the hut's ceiling, feeling deeply peaceful and happy. He knew choosing to stay was the best decision he had ever made. Zara's kindness, wisdom, and strength had deeply changed his life. Outside, Zara stood quietly beneath the stars, her heart filled with gratitude and joy. She knew their path would have challenges, but together they would overcome anything. Jake had become her greatest comfort and strength. Finally, Jake drifted into a restful sleep, feeling completely at home. Dreams of their future filled his thoughts. Warm and hopeful, the village slept peacefully beneath the stars, feeling secure and united. Jake's bravery and kindness had changed them, strengthening their community. Zara felt deeply thankful, knowing they had found true unity and love. The following morning, Jake woke with a heavy heart. He had fixed the communication system in his spaceship enough to send a short message to Earth. His duty to report his situation weighed on him. He stepped outside, seeing Zara already waiting. For him, her eyes bright and filled with warmth. Zara noticed Jake's thoughtful expression immediately and approached with concern. Jake smiled gently, reassuring her. Together, they walked slowly through the village, enjoying the quiet peace of the morning. Jake felt deeply connected to this place, and especially to Zara. After breakfast, Jake knew he needed to show Zara his repair communication system. Holding her hand, he led her to his spaceship. Zara looked at it curiously, never having seen it up close. Jake guided her inside, showing her the instruments and screens. Zara listened carefully as Jake explained, using simple words and gestures. She slowly understood that Jake had repaired the communication system and had contacted his home planet. Jake watched her face carefully, worried about how she might feel. Zara's eyes grew sad as she realized what it meant. She knew Jake might have to return to his home. Jake gently took her hand, speaking softly to reassure her. He promised he cared deeply for her and didn't want to leave. Zara listened carefully, comforted by his words but still feeling uncertain. Later that day, the elders of the village called a special meeting. Jake and Zara attended together, knowing its importance. Elder Arlen spoke gently, explaining their understanding of Jake's situation. The elders expressed gratitude for Jake's bravery and friendship, but also understood his responsibility to his own people. Jake listened respectfully, feeling deeply touched by their understanding. He knew how hard it was for them to consider letting him go. Zara sat close to him, quiet and thoughtful. After the meeting, Jake and Zara spent quiet time together near the river. Zara asked softly about Jake's home, curious about his life before the crash. Jake described Earth to her, the cities, the people, and how different it was from her village. Zara listened quietly, fascinated but also worried. She wondered if Jake missed his home, if he truly wanted to stay. Jake saw her worry and quickly reassured her, explaining how deeply he felt connected to her and the village. Zara smiled softly, comforted by his words. She gently touched Jake's hand, telling him she trusted his heart. Jake felt deeply grateful for her understanding and trust. Later, villagers gathered around the central fire, speaking softly and sharing stories. Jake and Zara joined them, listening to tales of past bravery and unity. Jake felt deeply moved by the villagers' closeness and sense of community. As night approached, Jake again sat with Zara beneath the starlit sky. The beauty of the night filled them with peace, but they both knew difficult decisions waited. Jake finally spoke, his voice quiet but determined. He shared his feelings openly, telling Zara he did not want to leave. Zara listened closely, her heart full of warmth. She gently spoke, reminding Jake of his duty and the importance of his choice. Jake nodded slowly, knowing Zara was right. He had to consider his duty, even if his heart longed to stay. Jake promised Zara he would think deeply about his decision. Zara understood, feeling hopeful Jake would choose to remain with her. They spent hours beneath the stars, talking softly and comforting each other. When it was time to rest, Zara gently squeezed Jake's hand, smiling softly. Jake felt strengthened by her support and love. He walked slowly back to his hut, his mind filled with thoughts and decisions. Jake lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling deeply torn between duty and love. He knew his decision would affect not only his own life, but Zara's and the village's as well. The weight of the choice was heavy, but he also felt a deep sense of purpose and clarity. Outside, Zara stood quietly, looking up at the night sky. She whispered softly to herself, hoping Jake would choose to stay. She trusted him completely, believing in the strength of their bond. Her heart felt hopeful despite the uncertainty ahead. Jake finally drifted into a restless sleep, dreaming of Earth and Zara, two worlds pulling at his heart. He woke several times, his mind filled with worry and hope. By morning, Jake knew he had to make his decision. He rose early, determined and clear-minded. Zara was already waiting for him, sensing the importance of the moment. Jake took her hand gently, speaking clearly and calmly. He explained his final decision. Zara listened carefully, her eyes wide and hopeful. Jake told her he had chosen to remain with her and the village, ready to fully commit his heart and life. To them, Zara's eyes filled with joy and relief, tears of happiness flowing freely. She hugged Jake tightly, speaking words of deep gratitude and love. Jake felt peaceful and confident, knowing he had chosen correctly. Together they walked toward the elders, ready to share their news. Jake felt deeply grateful for the love and friendship he had found. He knew challenges awaited them, but together with Zara, he felt strong and hopeful, ready for whatever the future held. Jake woke to a beautiful sunrise, the sky painted in soft shades of orange and gold. He felt peaceful as he stepped outside. Zara was already there, smiling gently at him. Jake smiled back, feeling his heart warm at her presence. Today, Zara wanted to show Jake more of her village's traditions. They walked through the bustling village, watching villagers prepare for a special ceremony. Jake felt curious and excited, eager to understand more. Zara took Jake to a large clearing, decorated with bright flowers and colorful fabrics. Villagers gathered happily, talking and laughing. Jake noticed young children practicing dances while older villagers prepared a large feast. As Jake watched, Zara explained slowly, using simple words and gestures. It was a ceremony to honor bravery and unity, especially important after yesterday's fight. Jake listened carefully, appreciating how Zara patiently taught him. Soon, drums sounded loudly, signaling the start of the ceremony. Everyone gathered in a large circle. Elders spoke first, honoring Jake and Zara for their bravery in defending the village. Jake felt proud but also shy about the attention. Then music filled the air, lively and joyful. Villagers began dancing together, celebrating their unity. Zara pulled Jake into the dance, laughing brightly. Jake joined in, clumsy at first but quickly learning the joyful steps. Zara's laughter encouraged him, making him feel welcome and loved. As the day passed, Jake learned much about Zara's people. They respected bravery, kindness, and honesty above all. Jake felt deeply connected to their simple, beautiful way of life. He also noticed how close he and Zara had become, their bond growing stronger each day. After the dances, everyone gathered to share the feast. Jake sat beside Zara, enjoying the delicious food. The villagers told stories, shared jokes, and sang songs about courage and friendship. Jake laughed and enjoyed himself deeply. As night fell, villagers began to leave, heading home tired but happy. Jake stayed beside Zara, helping clean up after the celebration. They worked quietly together, comfortable in each other's company. Later, Zara led Jake to a peaceful spot near a gentle river. The moon reflected softly on the water, creating a magical glow. They sat quietly, enjoying the peaceful night. Jake finally spoke softly, expressing his gratitude to Zara. He thanked her for teaching him, protecting him, and showing him such kindness. Zara listened quietly, her eyes warm and gentle. Then Zara spoke softly, her words slow but clear. She thanked Jake for his bravery, kindness, and honesty. She told him how much he meant to her, how deeply he had changed her life. Jake listened carefully, moved by her words. As they talked, Jake felt a deep desire to stay with Zara. He realized how important she and her village had become to him. The idea of leaving made his heart ache. "Zara," he said softly, "I don't want to leave you or your people." Zara's eyes widened with happiness, her smile glowing. She gently touched his hand, her voice full of joy and hope. Jake felt relief and happiness knowing she felt the same way. They spent hours talking softly, planning their future together. Zara spoke about the village, her dreams for its future, and Jake shared his hopes as well. They found joy in planning a life filled with love and friendship. Finally, tired but happy, they returned to the village hand in hand. Zara guided Jake to his hut, smiling softly. "Good night, Jake," she whispered, her eyes filled with warmth. "Good night, Zara," Jake replied, his heart feeling full. Jake lay awake for a while, thoughts of Zara and their future filling his mind. He felt peaceful, knowing he had found a place he belonged. Zara's kindness, courage, and warmth had changed everything for him. Meanwhile, Zara stood quietly outside, looking up at the stars. She felt deeply thankful Jake had come into her life. She knew their future would be full of challenges, but together they could face anything. As Jake drifted into a peaceful sleep, he felt deeply grateful for everything he had found. Zara's village had welcomed him completely, and Zara herself had shown him a love deeper than he had ever imagined. Outside, Zara whispered softly to the stars, promising always to cherish and protect the love they had found. She knew tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she felt hopeful and confident knowing Jake would always be by her side. Jake woke early, feeling refreshed from a restful sleep. The village was already bustling with activity as he stepped outside. The warmth of the morning sun greeted him kindly, and he stretched, looking around for Zara. He spotted her quickly, talking with several villagers near the main fire. She smiled broadly when she saw Jake and hurried to greet him. Zara gently took his hand, speaking softly but eagerly. Jake understood she wanted to show him something important. He nodded with curiosity, following her through the village. They reached a small clearing surrounded by tall, ancient trees. Several young villagers were already there, practicing with wooden spears and bows. Zara picked up a bow, handing it to Jake with excitement. He took it uncertainly, holding it carefully. She stepped back, motioning for him to shoot at a target marked on a tree. Jake had never used a bow, but he was willing to try. He pulled back on the string, taking careful aim, and let go. The arrow flew wildly, missing the target completely. Zara and the other villagers laughed warmly, their eyes twinkling with amusement. Jake laughed too, feeling relaxed despite his failure. Zara gently adjusted his stance and grip, showing him patiently. Jake tried again, and this time the arrow hit closer to the target. Zara clapped excitedly, proud of his improvement. They practiced for hours, laughing and enjoying each other's company. Jake felt comfortable and happy, realizing how quickly he was becoming part of the village. Later, they sat under a tree, resting from their practice. Zara spoke slowly, teaching Jake more words from her language. Jake listened carefully, repeating each word until he got it right. Zara smiled warmly each time he spoke correctly, clearly pleased with his progress. Suddenly, their peaceful moment was interrupted. Loud shouting came from the edge of the village, followed by panicked cries. Jake and Zara quickly stood, rushing toward the noise. Villagers ran in confusion, their faces filled with fear. A rival tribe had appeared, armed and aggressive. They wore paint across their faces, their expressions fierce. Jake quickly understood the danger. Zara's people grabbed weapons, ready to protect their homes. Jake knew he had to help. He grabbed a wooden spear, moving quickly beside Zara, who now held a strong stance. The rival tribe attacked suddenly, and chaos erupted in the village. Jake fought bravely, using his spear to defend against the attackers. Zara fought beside him, fearless and strong. Jake admired her courage, feeling a strong need to protect her and her people. Together, they fought side by side, pushing back the enemy attackers. Jake moved swiftly, surprising himself with his own skill and bravery. Finally, after a fierce struggle, the enemy tribe retreated, disappearing back into the forest. The villagers cheered loudly, grateful and relieved. Zara turned to Jake, her eyes shining with pride and admiration. She took his hands gently, speaking words filled with deep gratitude and affection. Jake smiled softly, feeling a warmth growing inside him. The villagers gathered around them, cheering and thanking Jake for his courage and strength. Jake felt humbled by their praise, grateful he had been able to help. Later that night, the villagers held a celebration in Jake's honor. Bright fires lit the night, music filled the air, and villagers danced joyfully. Jake watched, feeling a sense of belonging he had never known. Zara stayed close to him, her presence comforting and reassuring. After some time, Zara gently pulled Jake away from the celebration. She led him to a quiet place near a stream, where the water sparkled gently in the moonlight. They sat quietly together, the peaceful sounds of the night surrounding them. Zara spoke softly, her voice gentle and filled with emotion. Jake listened, understanding more of her words now. She thanked him deeply, expressing how much he meant to her. Jake felt moved by her words, realizing the depth of his own feelings for Zara. He finally decided to speak clearly. Using simple words Zara had taught him, he tried to explain the original misunderstanding with the blanket. He spoke slowly, carefully choosing each word. Zara listened quietly, her eyes showing confusion at first, then slowly understanding. Jake watched Zara's face closely, feeling nervous about her reaction. Zara finally laughed softly, her eyes filled with kindness and warmth. She gently touched his face, smiling brightly, and spoke softly. Jake understood clearly now. Zara had already moved past the original misunderstanding, her feelings for him now genuine and deep. He felt relief and happiness, knowing they both shared true affection. They returned to the village, their bond stronger than ever. The celebration continued, but Jake and Zara felt deeply content simply being together, enjoying the peacefulness of the night. As the night ended, Jake returned to his hut, exhausted but joyful. Zara smiled warmly as she watched him go, knowing their bond had grown even stronger. Jake lay down, thoughts of Zara filling his mind, grateful for the misunderstandings that had brought them closer together. Outside, under the bright stars, Zara stood quietly, feeling peaceful and happy. She knew tomorrow would bring more challenges, but tonight she felt only warmth and love. Jake had become part of her life, and together they faced a future filled with hope and promise. Jake woke up early the next morning, feeling refreshed despite his unusual situation. Sunlight gently streamed through gaps in the walls of his hut, creating small patterns on the ground. Stretching and yawning, he sat up, still trying to understand everything that had happened. Outside, he heard voices talking quietly and the occasional laughter of children. Curious, Jake stepped outside, blinking in the bright sunlight. Zara immediately appeared by his side, her eyes brightening when she saw him. She eagerly held the blanket Jake had given her the night before, smiling happily. "Good morning," Jake said with a friendly smile. Zara didn't understand his words, but she seemed to feel their meaning. She responded with warmth, gently guiding him to join the villagers gathered around a central cooking fire. Food was already prepared: strange fruits, roasted meats, and warm bread. Jake's stomach growled hungrily. As Jake ate, the villagers watched him closely, whispering to each other and occasionally laughing softly. Jake felt slightly embarrassed, but noticed their friendliness. Zara sat close beside him, frequently looking at him with clear affection. After the meal, Zara took Jake by the hand again, pulling him gently toward the center of the village. There, the elders of the tribe waited patiently, their faces calm but curious. Jake recognized the serious nature of this meeting and bowed respectfully to them. The elders nodded back, pleased by his gesture. Zara began speaking to the elders with great excitement. Jake listened carefully, trying to understand even a few words. As Zara spoke, the elders smiled, nodding in approval. Jake wondered what she was saying but felt happy they seemed to like him. One of the elders stepped forward, a wise old man named Arlen. He gently took Jake's hand, looking him in the eyes and speaking slowly, hoping Jake might understand. Jake shook his head gently. I wish I knew what you were saying. Arlen smiled patiently and used hand gestures, pointing to Jake and then to Zara, making a gesture of unity. Suddenly, Jake understood clearly. They thought he had chosen Zara as a mate. Jake's eyes widened in shock and embarrassment. Oh, no. Wait, Jake began quickly, trying to explain. I didn't know the blanket meant, but Zara looked at him happily, misunderstanding his worried tone for excitement. Jake sighed, knowing it was too difficult to explain without proper words. Throughout the day, Zara proudly showed Jake around her village. He learned quickly about the villagers' way of life. They lived simply working together to gather food, build shelters, and care for each other. Zara taught him words in her language, patiently repeating them until he could say them correctly. Jake began enjoying their time together, appreciating her kindness and gentle humor. By evening, Jake had learned many things. Zara happily pointed out the plants and animals, naming each one carefully. Jake laughed as he struggled to pronounce the strange words, but Zara's patience made him feel comfortable. As the sun began setting, Zara guided Jake to a beautiful place overlooking the village. They sat together quietly, watching the sky turn shades of pink and purple. Jake felt a deep sense of peace. Zara reached out gently, holding his hand softly in hers. Jake looked at Zara, seeing how much he meant to her already. He knew he needed to tell her the truth, but the moment felt so peaceful he couldn't bring himself to break it. Instead, he smiled softly, enjoying her company and the quiet evening. Thank you for everything, he whispered, knowing she wouldn't fully understand. But feeling he needed to say it anyway, Zara leaned against him, happy to be close. To her, Jake's presence was a promise of love and protection. To Jake, Zara's friendship and kindness were becoming increasingly important. Both felt deeply connected despite their different understandings. When night fell, Zara walked Jake back to his hut. She hesitated at the door, looking shyly up at him. Jake smiled gently, squeezing her hand softly. Good night, Zara, he said softly. Zara smiled sweetly, speaking words he couldn't yet understand. Jake watched her walk away, feeling warmth in his chest. He entered the hut, his thoughts confused but happy. He knew tomorrow he would need to clarify the misunderstanding, but tonight he allowed himself simply to enjoy the peacefulness he felt. Jake lay down, staring up at the ceiling of his hut. He knew the villagers had welcomed him fully into their community. Thanks to Zara, her kindness had made everything easier. He closed his eyes, drifting off to sleep with thoughts of Zara's gentle smile and warmth. Outside, Zara stood under the stars, holding the blanket close. She gazed toward Jake's hut, her heart filled with happiness. She had never expected someone like Jake to appear in her life, and now she felt deeply grateful for the mistaken ritual that had brought them together. She whispered softly to herself, making a promise under the starlit sky to protect and cherish the bond she believed they had formed. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, but tonight both Zara and Jake rested peacefully, united by misunderstandings and growing affection. Jake Carter's spaceship shuddered violently as alarms filled the cockpit. Bright red lights flashed around him, casting shadows on the walls. He gripped the controls tightly, his heart pounding with fear. Outside the viewing window, the stars spun rapidly as the ship plummeted toward an unknown planet. He had only moments to prepare. Come on, Jake muttered to himself, fighting to stabilize the spinning vessel. You can do this. With great effort, Jake managed to slow the ship's rotation. The unknown world loomed closer, covered in thick forests and rocky terrain. His scanner showed breathable air, and for that, Jake felt a small relief. The spaceship crashed through the thick atmosphere, roaring loudly as it tore through clouds and branches. Finally, with an earth-shaking impact, Jake's ship struck the ground, sliding across dirt and rocks until coming to a halt near the edge of a dense forest. The crash knocked Jake unconscious, When Jake woke up, his head ached terribly. He touched his forehead, feeling a warm trickle of blood. Carefully, he climbed out of his seat and stumbled outside, stepping onto the soft ground. The cold air made him shiver. Night had fallen, and strange sounds came from the nearby forest. Jake quickly checked the damage to his ship. It was badly broken. Communication systems were destroyed, and the engines were beyond repair. He sighed deeply, realizing he was stranded. He gathered a survival kit from the damaged ship, containing food, water, medical supplies, and blankets. Looking around for shelter, Jake saw the flickering glow of a fire in the distance, deep inside the woods. "Maybe I'm not alone," he whispered. Jake moved cautiously through the trees, branches scratching at his uniform. The forest was dark, but the fire guided him. As he approached, he slowed down, staying quiet. Around the fire, Jake saw small huts, built from wood and leaves. He also noticed strange markings carved into the nearby trees. Then, Jake heard soft crying. He looked toward the sound and saw a young alien woman sitting alone near the fire. Her skin had a gentle blue glow in the moonlight, and her eyes were large and filled with sadness. She wore thin clothing that did little to protect her from the cold night air. Jake watched her shiver and felt a pang of sympathy. Carefully, trying not to scare her, he stepped closer. The alien girl looked up sharply, fear shining in her wide eyes. "Wait," Jake said softly, holding up a hand in peace. "I won't hurt you." The girl did not understand his words, but his gentle voice calmed her a little. Jake slowly pulled a blanket from his bag, holding it out toward her. "Here," he said, offering it with a warm smile. "This will keep you warm." The girl stared at the blanket, confused at first, but then her eyes grew wide with shock. Jake did not know that, to her people, presenting a blanket like this was a sign of choosing a partner. It was an ancient and respected ritual. Jake, still smiling kindly, waited for her to take the blanket. The alien girl Zara slowly stood and stepped forward. She took the blanket with trembling hands, her face flushed a deeper blue. Her eyes now sparkled with something Jake could not yet understand. Zara gently wrapped herself in the blanket and bowed deeply before Jake. Surprised by her strange reaction, Jake nodded awkwardly in return, thinking it was simply a sign of thanks. Zara moved closer, now confident and smiling. Jake was puzzled by her sudden change. She began speaking rapidly in her own language, full of excitement and happiness. Jake wished he understood her words. "I don't understand," he said gently, shaking his head. "I'm sorry." Zara seemed undeterred. She reached out, gently taking Jake's hand, leading him toward her village. Jake followed, confused yet grateful for her kindness. As they approached, other villagers appeared from their huts, whispering excitedly among themselves. They looked at Jake with awe and respect. Zara proudly spoke to her people, showing them the blanket Jake had given her. Cheers erupted from the small crowd, startling Jake. He realized he had become part of something very important, though he did not yet understand why. Feeling tired and overwhelmed, Jake accepted food and water from Zara's people. They were friendly and welcoming, though he could see curiosity and amusement in their eyes. Zara stayed by his side, watching him with gentle affection. Jake, exhausted from the crash and the strange evening, decided to rest. Zara guided him to a small, comfortable hut. She gestured for him to enter, smiling warmly. Jake thanked her softly and entered the hut, lying down to rest. Outside, Zara proudly held the blanket close to her heart, believing that Jake had chosen her as his life partner. To her people, Jake's simple act of kindness was the most profound and meaningful gesture possible. As Jake drifted into sleep, he had no idea how significantly his life had just changed. The misunderstandings of this night were only the beginning of his adventures among Zara's people.